1. Gaslighting. Most people have heard the word, but not everyone really understands what it means or how it sneaks into their life. At its core, gaslighting is when someone plays with your sense of reality. It doesn't always happen in big, obvious ways. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, like someone slowly rewriting the story until you begin to wonder, am I the problem here? Think about this. You remember something clearly, but they insist it never happened. You open up about how a situation made you feel, and they brush it off by saying you're too sensitive. The goal isn't just to disagree, it's to make you question your own memory and emotions. Over time, you start believing their version more than your own, and that's where the real danger lies. Gaslighting doesn't hit you all at once. It's a drip. One denial at a time, one twisted word, one dismissive look. Slowly, you begin doubting your thoughts, your gut feelings, even your truth. It can show up anywhere: romantic relationships, family dynamics, or even at work. And the pattern is always the same: confusion, doubt, and silence. If someone can make you doubt yourself, controlling you becomes much easier. So how do you fight back? You get clear. Start writing things down so you don't lose track of what really happened. Trust your feelings even when someone tries to spin them. You don't need anyone's permission to believe your own experience. The clearer you see the situation, the harder it is for anyone to twist it. And when you stop wasting energy explaining yourself to someone who pretends not to understand, that's the moment you take your power back. 2. Love bombing. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe not, but it's more common than people realize. On the surface, it feels incredible. Who wouldn't enjoy being adored, praised, and treated like the most important person in the world? But here's the catch. Love bombing isn't really about love. It's about intensity, and that intensity is the trap. It usually starts fast. Too fast, suddenly you're the center of someone's universe. They call you perfect, talk about forever after just a few dates, text nonstop, shower you with compliments, maybe even surprise gifts. It feels less like slowly getting to know someone and more like being swept into a storm you didn't see coming. At first, it's easy to miss the danger. Being wanted feels amazing, so you ignore the speed. But once you're hooked on that rush, the shift comes. They pull back, the calls slow down, the warmth disappears, and you're left wondering what you did wrong. You chase the version of them who seemed perfect, the one who knew exactly what you needed to hear, but that person was never real. That version was the bait. This pattern shows up in toxic relationships, narcissistic dynamics, even trauma bonds. Love bombing is not about genuine care, it's about control wrapped in flattery and intensity. So how do you protect yourself? Slow down, ask questions, watch actions, not promises. Real love doesn't sprint, it takes time, space, and trust. If someone tries to rush you into something serious before those things exist, it's not love, it's a performance. And you never owe anyone an encore. 3. Guilt tripping. Out of all the tricks people use, this one is both common and sneaky. The tricky part? It doesn't even look like manipulation at first. It's not loud arguments or direct demands. Instead, it's soft, quiet moments. Maybe a sigh, a pause, or that little phrase, well, after everything I've done for you. They don't have to say much. Suddenly you feel like you failed them, like saying no makes you ungrateful, selfish, or even cold. The truth is, guilt tripping isn't about what you actually did wrong. Most of the time, you did nothing wrong at all. It's about creating an invisible weight on your shoulders, making you believe you owe someone something just for standing up for yourself. Setting boundaries becomes a crime, care turns into currency, and your kindness? It gets treated like a debt you'll never finish paying back. The worst part is, it often works, especially on people who are kind and empathetic. You start noticing the tension, the heavy silence, the disappointed look. Before you even realize it, you're apologizing for something you didn't do or agreeing to something you never wanted. Families, friendships, relationships, it shows up everywhere. And the goal is always the same. If they can't make you say yes, they'll make you feel terrible for saying no. So how do you fight back? You pause, you step outside of that heavy feeling and ask yourself, did I really do something wrong, or am I just being made to feel that way? Real guilt comes from your own values when you truly cross your own line. But this kind of guilt, it's manufactured. It's a control tactic. And here's the truth. You're allowed to keep your boundaries, even if someone else doesn't like it. Holding your ground isn't selfish, it's self-respect. 4. Triangulation. It sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. Instead of dealing with you directly, someone drags a third person into the conflict. Suddenly, it's not just between you and them. It becomes a social triangle. It doesn't feel like open communication. It feels like a side conversation you never got invited to. And you start hearing things like, well, Sarah agrees with me, or everyone thinks you're overreacting. That's not honesty, that's strategy. The power of triangulation lies in how it makes you feel outnumbered. You're no longer facing one opinion, you're up against an entire invisible team. And in that moment, your voice feels smaller, doubt creeps in, you wonder, am I the one being difficult? Am I overreacting? That's exactly the point. The tactic isn't about solving the issue, it's about winning by turning others into backup singers for their story. You'll often see this in toxic family systems where one parent complains about a child to another instead of talking directly. It also shows up in relationships when a partner pulls in a friend, an ex, or even a therapist, not to fix the problem, but to validate their side. Suddenly, you're not defending your perspective anymore. You're defending yourself against an entire narrative you never agreed to. It's exhausting because the original issue gets buried under someone else's storyline. So how do you deal with triangulation? You break the triangle. You keep things direct and simple. If someone says, they agree with me, respond with, if you have an issue with me, talk to me, not about me. You don't need to defend yourself to a third party who was never part of the conversation in the first place. And if they keep refusing to address you directly, you're allowed to step out of the triangle completely. You set the tone for your own conversations. And you don't have to play along with someone else's game. Hey, I'm curious, so far, how helpful do you feel this video has been? Drop a number in the comments from 1 to 10, with 1 being not helpful at all and 10 being super useful. I'd love to hear your thoughts and see where everyone stands. 5. The White Knight. On the surface, this person looks like a hero. They show up with answers, advice, and solutions you never even asked for. At first, it feels comforting, like finally, someone understands what you're going through. But with toxic dynamics, that help isn't what it seems. Here's the catch. A real white knight doesn't just fix problems. They sometimes create the problem first, just so they can be the one to solve it. They might stir up drama behind the scenes, chip away at your confidence, and then swoop in to comfort you when you're at your lowest. Picture this. They light the fire, then arrive with the hose. And why? Because being the rescuer gives them power. If you didn't need saving, they wouldn't have a role to play. It's sneaky because it's wrapped in care. They'll warn you that someone is against you, then offer to protect you. They'll play the hero while keeping you in a state where you always need their support. But here's the truth. Their help comes with strings. It's not about making you stronger, it's about keeping you dependent. The moment you start solving your own problems or setting boundaries, they may grow distant, turn cold, or even flip the story to make you feel ungrateful for all they've done for you. So how do you protect yourself? Pay attention to the pattern. Ask yourself, do they step up only when things fall apart, or do they quietly push things toward falling apart so they can step in? Real support helps you rise. A toxic white knight needs you stuck on your knees. So take genuine help when it's offered, but don't give away your power in the process. The strongest relationships are built on empowerment, not dependence. 6. The silent treatment. Now, silence on its own can be peaceful. Sometimes it's calming, respectful, or even necessary in a conversation. But the silent treatment is something completely different. It's not about taking a pause, it's about punishment. It happens when someone uses their silence, their absence, to control you. They don't yell, they don't explain, instead they go cold, distant, unreachable, and they stay that way until you finally give in. The key thing to know is this: the silent treatment is not about needing space, it's about gaining power. You end up replaying every word you said, wondering what you did wrong. You feel pushed to fix it, even though you don't actually know what it is. That uncertainty, that guessing game, is what makes the tactic so powerful. Because when someone refuses to communicate, your focus shifts. Instead of protecting your own needs, you start focusing only on how to get them to speak again. And that's when you start bending. You soften your tone, you tiptoe around them, you even apologize just to end the silence. Not because you believe you were wrong, but because the quiet has become unbearable. For the person using it, that silence is their tool. It sends the message, I control when this relationship feels safe. I control when you feel seen. And if I pull away, you'll chase me. It can happen in romantic relationships, friendships, family, even at work, anywhere someone wants to win without actually having a conversation. So how do you deal with it? You stop chasing the noise. You call it out clearly. You can say, if you're upset, I'm open to talking, but I won't be punished with silence. Then you hold your ground. Because real communication is a two-way street. If someone refuses to speak unless you fully agree with them, they're not looking for connection, they're looking for control. And the moment you recognize that difference, you take your power back. 7. Breadcrumbing. This is when someone gives you just enough attention to keep you interested, but never enough to actually move things forward. Maybe they send you a hey text every few days, drop a quick compliment, or react to your story online. It feels like they're reminding you they exist, but when it comes to making real plans, committing, or showing up, it's always vague, always later, always just out of reach. Think of it like emotional clickbait. You keep checking in, waiting for the moment they finally follow through. You tell yourself, maybe this time will be different, but it never is. Instead, they drop another small crumb to keep you hooked. You're left stuck in a cycle of hope and disappointment, wondering why you're still checking your phone at 2 a.m. What makes it tricky is that they don't actually reject you. They don't cut things off. They just stall. And that uncertainty keeps you hanging on, hoping for more. Breadcrumbing shows up in dating, friendships, even professional relationships. And here's the thing, it's not always done out of cruelty. Sometimes people breadcrumb because of fear, insecurity, or simply because they enjoy the attention. But no matter the reason, the result feels the same. You're left in limbo while they hold all the power. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever noticed any of these tactics in your own life? How did you handle it? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next video.